Hello and welcome to the Health Bridge podcast. I'm your host, Holly B. Always, I am bringing you fascinating people to listen to and learn from and expand your awareness from their specialties. And today's no different. In honor of Lupus Awareness Month, which is in May, I have another lupus talk for you. Today, I have Karen Quiros on. She has just recently published her new book called Starving the Wolf, A Victory Over Lupus. It's a self-help memoir that she hopes to inspire readers to unearth their fortitude and chart their own path towards sovereign healing and vitality. Karen is the founder of the practice Balanced Wellness Coaching, and her mission to inspire wellness seekers was ignited in 2001. For over 2 decades, she has devoted herself to enriching the lives of those grappling with chronic illness and life dissatisfaction, illuminating a path of transformation that leads to renewal and healing. Her overcoming lupus serves as the driving force behind her commitment to holistic well being. In this conversation with Karen, we go into a lot of different theories about how lupus may root itself in the body. We talk about different types of holistic healing and how there really is no one size fits all answer. We discuss the importance of both Western medicine and Eastern modalities or alternative modalities in your healing process. And again, just like how lupus presents differently in every single person, so does the method of healing. Everybody might have a slightly different method of coming back to wholeness and health. Karen has studied everything from a Western nursing degree to yoga teacher training to multiple different holistic health therapies to positive psychology. She's studied chakra dance and soul collage, and she really ties in the heart and the soul into the healing process. And in doing so, believes that, when you take control of your own healing path, that gives you autonomy in your healing, and it takes away the power of anyone else to tell you what is and isn't possible in your healing journey. Karen also believes that incurable diseases such as lupus actually can be cured, fully cured, not just put into remission. And we're going to start out our conversation talking about that. Now, let's dive into this great conversation with Karen. Karen Quiros, welcome to the Health Bridge podcast. I'm really happy to have met you and to have this conversation today. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. So happy and excited to be with you.
We were just chatting for a little while before we hit record, and now I am even more excited about this conversation because there's so many different facets to this conversation about lupus that we're going to have and just chronic illness overall. And what I really am drawn to with what you do is that you really challenge that current narrative around chronic illness and basically the Western medical mindset around chronic illness. And I'm curious, how did you get to this more of an empowered and holistic perspective around chronic health and around lupus? Was it through your own trials and tribulations, or did you already have that as a basis of how you ran your life before getting sick?
A good question. So it's a little of both because I remember years ago studying nutrition. So I did have that, as initially part of my journey, but I also was anorexic and bulimic back then. So it was me trying to help myself that way, studying nutrition. But then when I was diagnosed with lupus, they told me that I had, at best, 5 to 7 years to live. They gave me medication. They said all they can do for me at that time was to prescribe medications and physical therapy and a lupus patient support group. So I stuck it out for a while and doing what they were saying and taking the medications. And I noticed I was getting worse. I couldn't think. I needed to work still, and I wasn't able to get up and go. I was just over medicated for my body. And I decided at some point that if I was going to die, they're telling me I'm going to die, I might as well take charge and figure out how I'm going to heal myself. I just believe it was because the medications were really suppressing me and I couldn't focus. And I have to say that had a lot to do with it. And then also getting the prognosis. When you're told in your 20s, you've got at best 5 to 7 years. And I just was like, you got to be kidding me. This is not going to happen. It was fierce. So I did it their way, though. I did follow orders for a while. And then after that wasn't working, I just said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it my way.
And so you talk a lot about, in that beginning of that healing process, embracing vitality and embracing wellness beyond your prognosis. I'd love for you to dive a little bit more into that, because for somebody that is maybe has no basis in any kind of holistic mindset, and maybe they're newly diagnosed or they're just really in the middle of it and they are just feeling attacked by their body and like they have no control in the situation, how do you start to open the door of your mind to accept that there could be a possibility of healing, of vitality, even though despite, what you're going through at the moment?
That's another great question. So I have to go and refer them to my book, because that's where you would open the door to believing or understanding or even having an awareness of another path. I don't believe you're going to find that in the doctor's office, because that's their training is to mitigate symptoms, symptom relief. And for me, are more about, getting to the root cause. Let's find out why this is happening. And I think if someone was interested in, I don't really know how to answer that exactly, other than the fact that, it took me just being fed up with the medications to inspire me to look outside. If the medications are working and you're feeling good, there's no need for you to seek another way. But so I think if someone's, it's not working for them and they want to feel better, they want to have more energy, they want their life back, then I say, listen to your body, start tapping in and seeing what your body is sharing with you. Where are the pains? And begin to communicate through breath work. And I give a lot of examples in my book, how you can tap in. And just listening to other people that have walked that path before,
Yeah, exactly. With my own story, I started with chronic fatigue diagnosis after mono debilitated me. And it turned into chronic fatigue that just wouldn't go away and just a weakened immune system. And the doctors basically just said, we're going to call this chronic fatigue syndrome. It'll probably go away in a few years. And that was it. There was no hope for me. So I was forced to be like, there's got to be a way to get through this. And that's what started my journey of self-exploration through, other modalities besides just Western medicine. Your book just came out, I believe, last month in April. So it's called Starving the Wolf, and it's a practical guide designed to navigate the complexities of healing, advocating for self-reliance, informed decision-making, and the transformative power of self-compassion and love. And I really wanted to have you on during the month of May, being that May is Lupus Awareness Month, because you have this other perspective on lupus and healing and the ability to heal beyond just remission.
Right.
Talk about that, because isn't remission being healed, or is there more to it?
So to me, remission means there's always this looming feeling of it could come back. So it keeps me in a state of fear of thinking, oh gosh, if I do too much, or I eat the wrong things, or I have too much stress, or I get pregnant, I might, get lupus back again. I chose not to believe that I couldn't heal. And it's been over 25 years now that I have been lupus free. So no symptoms, no blood work that comes up anymore. I don't even test anymore. I used to go, back in the day, I'd go 3, 4 times a year to have my levels checked to see where I was and see how much flare was going on. And then I just remember actually the time I went and I was working, I was doing so many different things. And one of them was acupuncture. And I remember going for a treatment, acupuncture treatment, and laying on the bed while she had the pins in, and she'd left me in the room. And I just remember having this experience where it was as though I came out of my body and I was looking down, and the body that was on the table was this shriveled up old woman, like all bones and skin. And I was like, what the heck is that? I couldn't even imagine. So I just let that go. I told her about it. And 2 weeks later, I went in to have my blood work done. And I got a phone call a couple of days later, and they said, you need to come back. Something's wrong. Something happened with the lab. You're pretty consistent. I think it was ANAs back at the time and a couple of the tests, C-reactive protein. And so I said, okay, I'll come back. But in my head, I'm like, I just have a feeling maybe this is it. Maybe I healed myself. This would be amazing. So I went back, and sure enough, I was healed. That was it. That was the last, months prior to that I had positive anything. So I just have a feeling that day when I had that experience with the acupuncture, it was saying, you know, the old is gone. This is the new now. I don't know. It was just an interesting.
There's so many different modalities out there. I know you've studied a lot of different things, but at that point in time when you have that experience, were you like, oh, acupuncture cured me? Or did you know it was much more than that?
I was working so hard with mindset, belief. I just incessantly going and just studying. I had so much energy and attraction to all of it. Anything that came by, if it had to do with anti-inflammatory teas or plants. So never did I say this is the magic bullet. And I still to this day will not say that, because I believe it was all the other, emotional work that I did, changing the way I looked at things and believed about things, changing my diet, and not taking medications that were suppressing me, hydration, which I'm big at, big on, because if you think about the body, I'm going to give you a fish tank analogy where the pump isn't efficiently working and the water starts to get cloudy and the fish begin to die. Our body is the same way. If we're drinking all this, if we're not drinking enough water and we're taking all of this medication, I believe a lot of that medication can cause inflammation in the body, especially ibuprofen, Motrin, Advil, Tylenol. And I had been living on that for a while. When I stopped taking the regular medications, I stepped down to Motrin for the longest time. I think that was like my daily medication for a while until I started figuring things out.
For me, too, it's so many different things. I was trying so many different, modalities. Acupuncture was one of them, you know, lots of random things, some energetic medicine. And then I got into herbalism and I studied that. And, all these things made somewhat of a difference. And mentally, I was like believing that these things were like healing me. But I had to get to a point where I was like, this isn't enough. This isn't like hitting the nail on the head 100%. So what am I missing? And I finally came to mindset and incorporating more spirituality into my life. And that was where things started really shifting for me. So I just want to talk about how powerful that is in helping. It's like a conduit to help every other modality make a difference. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yes. So if you believe that lupus is an incurable disease, or you believe that I can cure myself of anything that comes my way. This body I've been given, I have the ability to heal it. I just commit to myself. I do whatever it is. If it's mindset, if it's whatever, I can go through the list of things that I did versus if I just thought, oh, this is it. I'm going to die in 5 to 7 years. I'll just take these medications. And, if I lived, with those beliefs, I don't know that I would be here today. And I think a lot of our, what I call programming of beliefs, starts and begins in childhood and what we're told in schools and, our superiors, our parents, and all of these beliefs that we have that are ingrained in us, we have to challenge them and say, what if I could do this? Why not try? Why not give it a try? And I remember walking around, I had doctors still. I would go and periodically see them. And, when I told them I'm not doing this anymore, as I was doing it, I went to another physician. Dr. Beasley was an amazing doctor, and he had done IV therapy. I was very malnourished, probably because of being an anorexic and a bulimic. So he started nourishing me with IV therapy. And then we addressed some allergies. So I think all of these things, when you believe that you can heal, you're going to walk through that door and say, yeah, maybe it is, maybe it was nutrient deficiency, or maybe it was parasites, maybe it was the stress, or, maybe I was feeding it with whatever, drinking too much. All of these are factors that can contribute to getting us sick and then keeping us sick. So if you start believing, I'm going to heal myself, I'm going to cure this no matter what. I don't care if nobody has done it before. And it took me years to come out with the book because, even being a nurse, I can't walk around and say I cured myself, but I did cure myself. And now I own it because just saying I'm in remission for over 25 years, I don't buy it. And I don't want to live with that fear always, oh no, what if?
Really quick, Holly B here. I just wanted to interrupt the podcast to ask you for a quick favor. Can you take just a moment to like and subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you are listening in on? It makes a world of a difference in the reach of this podcast. It takes like literally under 10 seconds. So go do that right now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And now back to the episode. I forgot that you were a practicing nurse.
So, yeah.
Tell me more about that dynamic.
I studied nursing, and my goal with that was to go into Eastern medicine and study acupuncture. I wanted to understand allopathic medicine or Western medicine. I wanted to understand that model and how that was. And I always wanted to be a nurse, even when I was a young kid. And then I was going into acupuncture. And it took a turn a little bit because I ended up studying instead natural health, natural medicine. And then I went into general therapy and gosh, I have all these things up there. Oh, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, T. Colin Campbell's foundation, I studied there, and then yoga and just tons of stuff I kept studying because I was passionate about figuring out how to cure myself. And I was not going to stop until I did. So that nursing was just one of the many studies that I did.
I think it's powerful to have that understanding of Western medicine and that deep understanding of just the physiology of the body that you'll get from that training.
Absolutely.
But powerful even more so to pair that with the Eastern therapies, because that gives you more of the energetic side of it. And the two combined, I think, is where the sweet spot is.
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have to have an understanding of how the body works to heal, especially when it comes to all the other, lupus, I put it in its own disease category. And then in addition to that, if you're taking certain medications and you're suppressing your immune system and you have a crappy diet and Like I was going through multiple surgeries back then for tubal pregnancies and endometriosis. So I was constantly bombarded with antibiotics, which was suppressing my system even more and creating candida. So then I had leaky gut. So all of these things, and a lot of times when I hear people say, yeah, this lupus is causing this, and I'm thinking to myself, maybe it's your diet, maybe it's your insomnia, the aches and the pains. It doesn't always have to be lupus. So if we can correct this, maybe you won't have those symptoms anymore. So I think it's really important to tune into your body, listen to it, honor it, love it up, and just say, oh, feeling too good today. My number one, I would say, if there was a medication, would be water. Lots of water, lots of hydration. It helps with inflammation. And of course, all those other great things I speak about.
Well, you
Okay.
talk about becoming your own body detective.
Mm.
And so I think that's what you're alluding to here is like learning to actually listen to your body's signals, not just, oh, my back hurts today. Damn it, that's one more thing I got to deal with. Instead, it's like, my back is hurting today. What's the message there? What do I need to shift? What is lupus telling me today? What is my gut doing? Am I feeling anxious? Why am I feeling anxious? What does my body need from me to calm that anxiety down? And I think what do I want to say? We're like so disconnected from our mind to our body. And if we're taught only one way to think of things, Western medicine puts things into different boxes and they don't always interrelate the different body systems and gut health and brain health and mental health. None of that stuff gets the big connections that we can draw from a holistic mindset. And so becoming your body detective is like learning to actually listen to these signals for help that your body's sending and giving care to it instead of saying, my body's attacking me. My body's against me. I have to fight with my body every day. That's a big mindset shift.
It is. It's sad, though, to even have that belief, too, because our body's here to support us, and we just need to tune into it, listen to it, nurture it. If it's rest it needs, give it the rest and tell it how much you love it. And, if there is an ache or a pain, don't just grab something and take like I was doing for a period of time, the Motrin, knock that down. I recently actually, side note, it was Dr. Gundry just came out, or one of his books has a lot of research on how ibuprofen has been hugely linked to leaky gut. And I know there's a lot of information out there on autoimmune diseases and leaky gut. So I'm like, could it be this that's causing that for people? So if they tap into that, but without the knowledge, knowing, oh gosh, taking ibuprofen every day, I could be doing this to my small intestines. This is terrible. And this could be causing an autoimmune disease. Oh my gosh. But if you're not aware of it, how are you supposed to know? Right? The doctors might not even know if they're not functional medical doctors or they don't have time to read the newest research that just came out. So I think in addition to listening, becoming a body detective, it's also constantly educating yourself. Research it, look into it further. How long has lupus been around? I have a million questions I ask. Actually, I put a lot of them in the back of the book that I wanted to know, and I had a researcher do the research and then answer them for me. But to just become in tune with everything about your body. People don't even know they're thirsty. They think they're hungry. Afternoon, they're tired, they're yawning. Oh, it's that 3 o'clock slump. I need tea or whatever it is. It's not, it's hydration. Hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. You're going to feel better. It's going to keep things flowing in the body. Your lymphatic system will be happier and movement too. That's another big thing for me is getting people up to move. I think I told you before on my phone, I have once an hour, a 3-minute song I get up and I dance to. And I drink my water. and it helps me stay on track. So that's one big tip I can give you today.
Yeah, the hydration, changing my hydration has been a big thing in my life, and I speak to that a lot. Changing my nutrition, it's like one shift brings improvement, and then the next thing brings improvement, and then the next thing brings improvement. And you're always fine-tuning these things. I teach circadian rhythm with my clients, and I'm still tweaking that for myself. I'm still learning how to fine tune these things for myself. It's every step is a step in the right direction. And if we misstep, then we learn,
That's right.
you know?
Right. That's what I call it a journey. The whole journey to this moment, I'm learning every day. I'm learning something.
Mhm.
And if we can lead with that instead of what I like to say, and I know some people might not like to hear it, instead of handing my body over to a stranger called the doctor and saying, fix me, figure this out. What's wrong with me? I rather take it, empower myself and say, I'm going to do this, but you're going to be my partner. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? I used to meet with my doctors and say, I did all this research on serapeptase. What do you think about this? Is this going to help me? And they would sit down and they would talk with me. If they didn't, I didn't hire them because I'm hiring them as a doctor, right? So just, you know, be bold and be brave and ask a lot of questions because this is your one great body that you've got. And if you wait around for a cure, you might be waiting for a really long time.
That is another thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is we're so focused on a cure, finding the cure. We got to find the cure. We got to do our walks to raise money to find a cure and to fund research. And while I do think all that stuff is important, we should be, making a big presence. There's nothing wrong with doing a lupus walk. There's nothing wrong with putting money into research. But, well, A, do you know where those research dollars are actually going and how they're being used? So that's one caveat there. But if we're so focused on these other people finding a cure for us, we're putting all of our power into somebody else's hands. And I think that's a somewhat dangerous place to be in.
And if you study it, as I have done almost 40 years, you'll realize that it's such an elusive or a disease that affects each of us very differently. And there are so many factors that come into play that with all the work that I'm doing, even now with parasites, I told you about, I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's next to impossible to say this is the cure or this is the cause because there are so many different parasites that could be contributing to it. There are, trauma factors. There's just the emotional factor, the suppression of the immune system that you start getting some viruses or bacteria and whatnot, and then the immune system turns on and it can't turn off. And a lot of it could have to do, I think I was telling you before about the bacteria could mimic cells in our body. So our body starts to, or the other way around, and, attack them. But if we can get to the bottom of that and investigate parasites more, maybe we'll make some headway, especially considering the primary medication is for parasites, right?
Right.
But you don't want to wait around. You want to take action and, do your best, listen to your body. And if it gives you something, if you've got a stomach issue, you listen to it, tap into it, see what it is, watch what foods you're eating, keep a journal every day, write down how you're feeling, what you did, keep track. And then you always have that journal to go back to the days that you were feeling really good. What was I doing then? Because even you said, we're hydrating, we're eating better. You know what? We all slip. We all slip back. We forget. We start feeling so good. I remember when I was going through this, there were days where I was like, I got this. I'm better. Oh my gosh, it's been weeks. It's been weeks now. I haven't had this pain, that pain. I'm sleeping good. I'm eating great. I have so much energy. I finally did it. And then all of a sudden, I would just be miserable 2 days later. And then I would sit and think, oh my gosh, what did I do? And I kept pointing fingers at the candida because I struggled with it. Even though it wasn't diagnosed candida, I knew every time I went in for surgery, they were dripping antibiotics. My tongue was as white as can be every single morning when I woke up. I had all of these symptoms that I had to figure out how to get this under control. Because if this is an isolated incident, right, this is from a surgery, has nothing really to do with lupus, but how am I ever going to get there when I still have this that comes up? And then I got Lyme disease that came up and endometriosis that was coming. So I had to keep taking each one of those things, breaking it down, researching, seeing what works, testing some things. So I was my one greatest guinea pig.
There's so many layers to healing. There's so many different things that feed into disease, but also that feed into the healing process. You mentioned parasites. We don't need to go deep into this, but just for somebody who's like, parasites, what does that have to do with lupus? I have some experience in, learning a bit about parasites. What is your research showing lately? And I know you're just, treading
Well,
lightly here, and that's fine.
till I have a little more information. So what I was years back, I was thinking about, gosh, why did they say the rash, which I used to have this rash, the discoid lupus rash. I had both systemic and discoid diagnosed. They had taken a sample, a biopsy of my skin, and that was it. I was branded. But I always wondered, where did the name come from? How did we, call this lupus? I understood lupus meant wolf, but so I started digging and they said it looked like the looked like the wolf bite. So I said, the wolf's bite, gosh, what would that mean? It's not a bite on the face. So I started digging and then I found out about parvovirus. And I said, what's that? Meanwhile, I had two dogs I was always sleeping with in my bed. So I started digging a little bit. And so people can get parvovirus. I think it's D19. And what I was wondering is, yes, they have symptoms and then they go through it and then they're over it. But I'm wondering, okay, it's a virus. Is it stored in the body? Is it something that can be an underlying cause or contribute to lupus? Is it something I can pass on to my child if I get pregnant? So I started looking into that a little bit. So that's one of them. Then the other one was Toxoplasmosis gondii, I think it's called, or gondii. That's from cats. So that's another single-celled parasite that cats would typically carry, as well as other rodents and things carry it. And that can mutate things in our body, especially our brain. I think it secretes some dopamine so that we have no fear. And it can just plague the body as well. That was another one. And then there was another one I was looking into. Oh, cytomegalovirus. I was noticing a lot of women and Epstein-Barr virus, before they were diagnosed with lupus, they had these other viruses. So I'm thinking, gosh, there's got to be a connection. There's just got to be a connection somewhere. And in addition to that, I had the candida, which weakens your immune system as far as fighting, and it's really challenging to get rid of that. So that was another parasite. And the thing is, we are hosts for many parasites. And actually, our digestive system needs certain good little gut critters in there to help us metabolize food and create vitamins and whatnot. I started studying that just recently again. I had done it years ago. So I'm fascinated by how it can, mimic in the body and cause this autoimmune disease. And I'm wondering if we can get to the bottom of that, maybe we can prevent it. Or, the medication, what's it called again that you're taking? The
Hydroxychloroquine,
Clarkland, which is
Plaquenil.
it's for parasites, right? It's for that malaria. I know it reduces inflammation, I think, in lupus, because I was looking into it. What is it doing in the body? But then when I started seeing, okay, it's worked for COVID, it worked for malaria. Is it parasitic? But they're just not giving high enough dose to kill off the parasites. So that's where I'm at right now. And I just find it really fascinating. So
It is fascinating. And I've worked with other healers in the past, specifically one naturopath who's whole mission is parasites. She studies the heck out of it and finds it to be at the root of one of the root causes of, a plethora of different things. So I'll be interested to see how this research of yours develops. So we'll have to have you on again at another time to talk more about that when you're ready to. But it also gives people another tool, something else to just have on the back of their head while they're going through their healing process and see if that's something that might feel good to them to look into.
Absolutely.
We were also talking a little bit about frequency medicine, and I've felt for a long time that frequency, and I can't really speak to the science too well of this at this point, but frequency medicine or energy medicine is going to be a medicine of the future. I'm curious what your experience is in this and if there's any feedback you can give our listeners on this type of healing. Hey, I just wanted to jump in here and interrupt the program for just a hot minute. You know that I'm so passionate about this podcast, but what I'm also really passionate about is helping women with lupus minimize their symptoms, boost their energy so that they can indulge in life again. So if you are a woman who is struggling with lupus, who is sick and tired of being sick and tired, who's struggling to manage your flares, if you're finding that your lupus symptoms are just really getting in the way of you being able to live your life the way you want to, I feel you. I've been there myself and I felt the same way. And what I've found is that there are a certain set of health fundamentals that once applied will support you in your foundational health. They will support you in building and maintaining that energy, minimizing flares, and allowing you to, again, indulge in life and follow your passions. So, if that is something that you are interested in creating for yourself, let's jump on a call together. I will walk you through the process that I use with my clients to get them from sick and tired to strong foundation of health by implementing my Health Bridge protocol. If this is something you're interested in chatting more about, I would love to talk to you. Apply for a free clarity call with me, and I look forward to getting to know you soon. And now back to the episode.
Definitely. Rife, I think his name is Royal Rife. I think it was back in the 40s, discovered that he could, I want to say, eradicate. I think one was syphilis. There was like 9 different diseases at the time that he was able to eradicate using a frequency generator box. And he'd have the clients hold, I think there were 2 copper rods, and it would pass, through a wire, through the generator, and through the other hand. So he's basically, in essence, was passing this frequency through the body. And the frequency he discovered for syphilis, say it was like 106.4, like your radio station, he would tune in the generator to that frequency. And once he passed it through the person's body harmlessly, they wouldn't feel anything. He discovered that he was able to cure them of the disease. So that was back then. And then I think it was considered pseudoscience and he was a quack. And so that was pushed aside for a long time. And then I don't know if it was Hulda Clark or another author. I read a book when I was in my teens called The Cure for All Diseases. So I was building a generator back then with a shoebox and some parts from Radio Shack. And so I've always been fascinated by it. And I did use it, the system. I have a frequency generator I used. And I was able to, I had Lyme disease. And I was able to, and I was losing vision, especially at night on the sides of my eyes. And I was able to utilize the generator to help me with Lyme disease. So it's pretty fascinating. There's a lot out there on it. Your listeners can Google Spooky 2 to learn a little bit more. It's a physics term. And I really do believe it is. It's now, it's not really the future. It's now. A lot of people are working with it for cancers. And I don't like to say anything is a cure-all ever. Not everyone is going to respond the same way. But it has helped me and all my family members with many different things. And it's something I think we need to look into a little more to cure us of certain things, or at least to help us with parasites, because that's what I'm pretty much using it for.
So we've covered a lot of topics today. For somebody, and I know you have a lot of different offerings, so I'll let you discuss those. For somebody that's just starting to open up to the holistic possibilities for healing, where do you recommend they start? Or what are your key tips for somebody to really start to open themselves up to these other modalities, this other way of thinking, this possibility of healing themselves?
So I generally say to start with getting really clear on your why. Why do you want to heal yourself? Because when we really know why we want to do this, it's easier to stick around and stick it out through the good times and the bad times, because it's just the only way I can explain healing is, you'll be feeling really good for a little while and you go off a little bit and then you're off on another path for a while and you come back, and it's easy to want to give up. It's easy to want to take that pill that really takes the pain away. But, you have to, if you know your why and you want to clean your body up, like I wanted to be clean as I could be. I had a lot of different experiences younger, when pesticides and things like that were in my apartment. And I wanted to make sure I had clean water and, clean food and organic food and just clean air in my bedroom. I worked at all of these things. And if you're not in it for the long haul and you're not really clear on what your mission is, if you say, I'm going to cure myself or I'm going to heal myself, and stick with that, because people are going to tell you're crazy. They did. They told me, the doctor would say, you should really go to therapy and, explore this. My family members thought I was crazy because one day I just decided, I think it was like 8 or 9 months in, I just said, I don't have lupus. I don't have lupus. And I just took it from that day forward. And I said, I am not carrying this torch, that a disease is just a name given to a set of symptoms. That's it. That's it. So if that's what it is, I'm going to cure this. So when you make the decision, be really clear on your why, and then create, using affirmations if you need to, create a new belief system that supports that. I would walk around, I am healthy, I am healed, I am whole. I would just keep saying that I'm healthy, I am healed, I am whole. I can cure myself. I am curing myself, because you have to watch conscious language too. You don't want to say those negatives, I'm healing or I'm trying. You don't want to say that. You say, I am healed, and live as though you already are healed. That's usually a lot of the manifestation teachers will teach that for manifesting, business or financial gains. And I prefer to use it for health and healing gains, is to then, before I forget, is to anchor yourself to that decision by writing it down, creating a vision board. You have to anchor in, because there'll be days that you're just going to say, this is not working. This doesn't work. I tried this. I would try one thing, and as soon as I was getting to a point where this isn't working, I would switch to something else. I'd always have a list of things that I was investigating or researching, and I would keep going and never give up. And I just so want that for people, is to keep going, never give up, believe that you can heal no matter what they say out there. The scientists will say there is no cure. They don't even know what causes it. How am I going to trust that is the only way? You don't know what causes it. You don't have a cure. I have to do something, right? And I did that for everything, anything that comes my way. With the Lyme disease, I've had it 3 times. I just really want to inspire people to become sovereign in their healing and know that they've got it. They can do it. And to reach out to someone like you, to me, to, you know, ask questions. I'm always here to answer questions and help people and guide them. So we can do this.
Yes. And I love that you said, why should I trust them if they don't even know what causes it? Why should I trust them to tell me that it can't be cured? Exactly. Just because that doctor, that scientist hasn't seen somebody be cured of said disease doesn't mean it's not possible. So don't let that sway you. I love it. Be sovereign in your own health and in your own trajectory. Karen, where can everybody find you? And tell us about the different offerings that you have.
So my book, Starving the Wolf, it's Starving the Wolf, Victory Over Lupus, is available at starvingthewolf.com. I have all the links to the different countries. It's on Amazon. And I also, my bracelets I'll share. This is one of my new ones. I haven't released it yet. I don't know, you can't see on a podcast, but they are manifestation bracelets where you would write on a little scroll what your desire is, what it is you want to bring into your life, what you want to change, and it could be an affirmation. So it's something that you want to manifest in your life, which would be healing in this case for most people. So you would write something on the scroll and insert it in the little capsule and then screw it closed. And I just created new ones 2 weeks ago with little butterflies with little rhinestones on the butterfly. And the stones are amethyst. And I have other designs that I'm doing with this. I think it's called black spinel. So it's a really powerful stone. And they can be found at happinesscompass.net. And then lastly, I am on Instagram, Lupus Phoenix.
I will put all those links in the show notes so everybody can find you. I would love to ask our listeners to reach out to you with any questions, to definitely get your book. And just your book is based on lupus, but it is really applicable to any chronic illness or health issue, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Especially endometriosis as well, because I speak to that a lot in the book. I wanted to focus on one topic marketing wise. So I went with lupus because that's near and dear to my heart as well. And just too many people are struggling. They're suffering, really suffering. I'm in those groups every day, listening and writing and, texting back and forth to try to inspire and help them. But when you're in there and you actually see the suffering that just all of these women, primarily women, are going through, I just want to, wish them healing and empower them so that they know that they can. We can heal.
Yeah. Yeah. Karen, thank you so much. You are bringing so much light to the world with what you do. I appreciate having you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. All right. Bye-bye.
So Karen and I had a great conversation for about an hour before we actually started recording. And then we talked again for another hour after we stopped recording. Karen is absolutely amazing. Her joy and passion in sharing health and wellness and turning people's minds into what could really be possible for them in their health journey and their life path is just amazing. She is very open to having conversations. So if you're struggling with any of the topics that we talked about today, I highly encourage you to reach out to her. What we both have in common is, aside from just experiencing lupus, of course, and being in this holistic path, is that we have both seen and experienced the power of mindset in our healing journey. And so I just want to leave you with the idea, the thought, the possibility that changing your mind or being open to possibilities other than maybe what you've been told, what you've read about your health experience and what is possible for you, that's just somebody's opinion based on the research that they have done. It does not have to apply to you. It's good to be informed. It's good to have the research. It's good to do your own research. I am a huge proponent of that. But no one thing has to be concrete. No one thing has to be concrete. We can create our own reality. That is proven in neuroscience. And so if you are really caught up in the struggle, please reach out to Karen. Please reach out to me. This is a passion of ours, is to help people up-level their mindset in order to up-level their health experience. Find the link in the show notes to apply for a free call with me. If you're struggling with this, let's connect and let's do a deep dive into your situation and give you some tools and tips that you can use right away. Whether we move forward in coaching or not, I want to enrich you with some things that you can take away right now to start improving your situation. Please let us know what you took away from this conversation. And I will see you next week on another episode of the Health Bridge podcast.